Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you people are well. And the chapter that I am planning to discuss with you is Retail Market Strategy. That is chapter number 5 of your book. So without further ado, let's proceed with this chapter and see what we have to discuss here. But, but one thing I want to highlight here, if you look at the topic, which is retail market strategy, it you should get an impression that the chapter will be talking about some planning, the management part of the retail management particularly. And when it comes to strategies, we will be talking about two important type of strategies or plans. Particularly, what is a strategy? It is a plan, but it's a long-term plan. You remember I told you something about the short-term plan? What do we call that? Do you recall back? Yeah, the short-term plan or the tactical plan that we talked in the last classes, and our focus would be on the strategy related to retail market today. These are some of the questions that you'd be able to answer, inshallah, after this chapter. Like, for example, what is a retail strategy? How can a retailer build sustainable competitive advantage, and so on. So let's proceed. It starts with a case of Starbucks company, and it's not a new company to you people. We have been to Starbucks many times, and it's in almost every corner of Kuala Lumpur. So we are familiar with the company Starbucks. And why the case is there, because it is considered one of the companies that one of the organizations that they plan very effectively, and they have been here for many decades, and they are still successful and ranked one in many parts, in many portions of the organizations. And the important thing that they are still on the top of the rank is because of their focus and their attention on the long-term strategic planning. Now, why it is important to have a long-term strategic plan? The reasons are because every time we have new competitors. Now, a couple of decades ago, it was only Starbucks. Then you know that because of the retail structure that Starbucks follow, a lot of other coffee cafes have already started more or less the same style of retail format. For example, a very common example that I give to the students is if you go and see Dr. Cafe in for example, Festival City, we have Dr. Cafe, we have Dr. Cafe in Harthamas, Mount Kiara. In these areas, if you go and see Dr. Cafe, you will see that they are following pretty much the same format, and their coffee is equally good. And interestingly, their coffee is cheaper as well. So the point here is that you have to have long-term strategic planning, because you face new competitors every time. If people see that you're doing good in a particular area, they would start doing the same business, and you will have a competitor. And today we are living in a world where there is very tough competition in almost all the sectors, in almost all the industries. So strategic planning or long-term planning along with the short-term planning is the way to be successful. Further, why it is important to have a good strategic plan, why it is important to pay attention to the strategic plan. The reason is, the second reason is because of the new emerging formats. Previously, I remember we would go to the store, there would be a shopkeeper, we would ask him, give me this and that and that, and the shopkeeper would give us. But now the trend has changed. Now it's more of a self-service kind of thing. You go and you pick the products and you pay at the checkout, or you check out even by yourself. You Now, if you compare these different type of structures of retailing, or format structures of retailing, there is a significant change. Not only that, when you look at the layout of the retail outlet, it has also changed significantly. Just go in, those of you who have been here in Kuala Lumpur, you may remember McDonald's, Starbucks, KFC, and all these big giants. They have been transforming and changing their format after a certain period of time. I have seen McDonald's changing their format twice in my 8 years of stay in Kuala Lumpur. I've seen Starbucks changing the way they operate, their outlook, their structure. at least 2 times. So what is it? Because the new formats are emerging, new space efficient formats are emerging, new formats where the consumers feel more comfortable are emerging. So you have to keep in mind to have a plan for that. The next one, which is also inevitable, is the technologies. So you have growing technologies. The 10 years ago, the technology that you had, you can absolutely not use it today. That is already obsolete. That should be thrown away. The computer that you purchased 10 years ago, you cannot use it anymore. You can use it, but that will actually not run most of the programs of today. The phones that you have, take an example of the Samsung S3. You have an example of iPhone 3G. Can you use iPhone 3G or 4 today? I don't think that will work. And if it works, it will work extremely slow. Same is the case with the retail outlets. New technologies are emerging. The QR codes have emerged. The barcodes have improved a lot. The chips are now embedded in the products to track the customers. New softwares in the retail outlets or the retail formats or the retailing has emerged. So all these new technologies requires planning, and you have to have these plans because of the emerging new technologies. The next important point that needs to be considered while planning is the center of marketing, and that center of marketing is called customers. The customers, when it comes to the needs of the customers, it changes from time to time. Many years ago, we would be happy to have only one car in a whole family. Like a family of 10 people would have only one car, but now you see that 10 people have 10 cars in the family. So the needs have shifted, the needs have changed. Previously, a slightly defective product would not be that offensive for the customers, but today a slight change in a slight defect in the product, a slight experience of unhappiness in the retail outlet makes the customers go away from that company and switch to another company. So you need to plan for that, and you need to have a really good strategic plan in order to meet the changing needs of the customers. Followed by that are some of the elements that you have to keep in mind in retail strategy. When you're making a retail strategy, there are a few things. The first one is your target market, or we also call in some books the strategy of market targeting, the targeting strategy. I'll come to that in a while. Then you have to keep in mind the retail format, that what is the structure of your retail, what mix in the retail you need to have. And another thing which could be this is not a new word for you, the competitive advantage, but before that there is another word which is called sustainable. So the word sustainable has been added for your information now with the competitive advantage. Competitive advantage, let's first understand this word, which you already know. What is competitive advantage? It is an advantage of a competitor over another competitor. What does it mean? It means that if two people are producing the same product and one producer has something which is more attractive for the customers compared to another competitor, so we can say that this first producer has a competitive advantage over another competitor. Now, the term competitive advantage has been changed. Another addition has been made to the word competitive advantage, and that is sustainable. What is sustainable? Sustainable is long-term competitive advantage. The problem with the competitive advantage is that if you do something which others don't offer to the customers, the chances are that others will also copy. An example of that I normally give would be the gadgets that I normally give. If you put a good camera in your mobile, you will see that the other mobile producers, cell phone producers, will also do exactly the same thing. If you put a good high resolution touch screen, all of them would do that. If you make your mobile slimmer, all of them would do that. If you put a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi hardware, everybody would do that. So the point with the competitive advantages, it is not a long-term advantage. You do that, you get benefit for a certain span of time, and then others starts copying them. What is sustainable competitive advantages? It gives you a longer benefit, at least for a couple of years, or for a few decades. And in some types of competitive advantage, sustainable competitive advantage, you get the benefits even for the whole life. And one of the examples would be, for example, a location. A location is one of the sustainable competitive advantages where even if someone wants, they cannot copy. They can open a store in front of your store, but they cannot open a store where you already have opened the store. So sustainable competitive advantage is the important point that you have to keep in mind in the retail strategy. You have to find out something which cannot be easily duplicated by the competitors, which cannot be easily duplicated. This is an important term, which cannot be easily duplicated by the competitors, plus it can be maintained for over a long period of time. So you need to have that advantage for a longer period. If you have something special and others follow that in the next day, well, that advantage will give you benefit only for one day. But if you have something that others cannot try to copy that for many years, then you have a benefit for at least many years. And that is what you have to focus on. Back to the target market, you have to define who are the customers that you want to target. A retail outlet who is selling hardware is targeting a different set of customers. A retail outlet that is selling furniture is targeting a different set of customers, and so on and so forth. So you have to find out your market segment that you want to focus on, so that you can design your resources and retail mix according to the same line, or along the same lines. I already talked about the retail format, that it is the operations that you want to do, you have to keep in mind, and sustainable competitive advantage as I discussed. Okay, now retail market. What is a retail market? Retail market are the group of consumers with similar needs and a group of retailers that can satisfy those needs using a similar retail channel or format. So you have to find out a retail market so that you can focus on that retail market and then design your strategy according to the same retail outlet. What are the important things that you have to keep in mind while you're designing a target market or selecting a target market? The first and the most important thing, of course, that makes sense as well, that you have to find a market that is attractive. Now, why attractiveness is important? Attractive, what do you mean by attractive? The word attractive here means attractive with regard to large. It should be large enough to give you enough returns on your investment, and it should have a potential for growth. So if it is a small retail outlet, if it is a small market, for example, consists of a few hundreds or thousands of people, then investing a lot of money in opening a retail store in front of that, opening a retail store for that particular target market may not be enough for getting the returns on your investment. So you need to have a clear demographic profile or demographic data of the area of the population where you want to start a retail outlet. So the target market should be large and it should have a potential for growth. The second point is that it is important to find out, or it is important to select that target market where there is a high chance of penetration. What do you mean by high chance of penetration? It means that there is less competition there. There is a very little competition there, because the more the competition, the less are the chances for profits, or the more the competition, the tougher it is for the retailer to attract more customers, because you already have competitors. You have to drop your prices, you have to offer something more than others, so a lot of other complicated points are there. So you have to find the target market where there is little competition and where there is a easy chance of getting into the market. Of course, businesses are done for the sake of profit. So if you find out a target market that is large, that is growing, where there is little competition, but there are no profits in that market, so it's not suggested to open a retail outlet there. So the point here is, find a retail outlet, find a target market that is profitable for you. And of course, the target market should the target market that you have selected should look at you as a retailer with competitive edge. The target market should be consistent with your competitive advantages. Now, some of the questions, sustainable competitive advantage. That is that, what do you think? Can a retailer develop a sustainable advantage, competitive advantage by these questions? So, dropping the price of your merchandise. Think. What do you think? Well, the answer is no, because others can also drop the price. Next one. What do you think? Can a retailer develop a sustainable competitive advantage by building a store at the best location? Yes, because location is something which others cannot copy. So that is your sustainable competitive advantage. Deciding to sell some hot merchandises, some merchandises which are demanding, which is demanded by the customers with a high demand. So do you think that it can create sustainable advantage? Well, it can create competitive advantage, but not sustainable, because others can also copy that. Increasing your level of advertising, very temporary. It can increase your competitive advantage for a while, but not sustainable competitive advantage. What about attracting better sales associates by paying higher wages? What do you think? If you attract people, do you think that it will give you sustainable advantage? The answer is yes, because the second point, the second thing that we will discuss in a chapter that can give you sustainable competitive advantage after location is the employees. So the people that you have will give you a sustainable competitive advantage, and providing better customer services will give you sustainable competitive advantage. But if the employees part is included in the customer services, yes, it will give you better sustainable competitive advantage. But when it comes to installing technology and letting the technology offer the services, then that is not a sustainable competitive advantage. That is just a competitive advantage, because installing technology to provide better customer services can be installed by others as well. Some of the key points that you have to keep in mind in the competitive advantages, which are more sustainable and which are less sustainable. So you can see the list. These are only few. It can be a bigger list as well. You can find out, for example, location, loyal customers, customer services, exclusive merchandises, low cost supply chain management, information system, buying power with vendors, and committed employees. These are the points, some of the points, not all, some of the points that can give you more sustainable advantage. On the other hand, the points which can give you less sustainable advantage, it includes better computers, because others can also copy that. More employees, the number of employees you have, like many employees in one store. Well, others can have many employees as well. You don't need to have many employees, you need to have good employees. More merchandise, your store is filled with the products. No, others can also fill the store with the products. Great assortment, including in the merchandise assortment, and what do you call, the width and the depth. Then you have lower prices. Everybody can do that. Other retailers can also drop the prices, and that's what is going on. Look at the telecommunication companies. One drop the price, other also follow and drop the prices. More advertising cannot give you sustainable competitive advantage. More promotional sometimes can even backfire, and it can even be a negative point for the organizations. And cleaner stores, well, cleaner store is something really good. I really value that personally. That is my personal thing, but personal opinion. But it cannot give you sustainable competitive advantage. It can only give you competitive advantage, because cleaner store is something that others can also do. So these are some of the sources which are more sustainable and less sustainable with regard to competitive advantage. Now comes another important topic, which is a very sustainable competitive advantage, and that is having customers who are very loyal to your company. Now, customer loyalty is a pretty much complex topic, which is the combination of many things. It has a lot of antecedents. It has a lot of factors that impacts customer loyalty. But quickly speaking, if you have satisfied customers, there are chances that there are chances that you can make them loyal customers. So satisfaction is an important thing for loyalty. Generally speaking, there are two type of factors in loyalty, or two type of variables in loyalty. We call it attitudinal loyalty, and the other one is called behavior loyalty. So the two, let me tell you that, right? Let me write so that you don't forget them. I'll write it here. Loyalty is a combination of two important variables. Number one is attitudinal loyalty. The second one is called behavioral loyalty. Now, attitudinal loyalty um, is in some books is also called your commitment, and behavioral loyalty in some books is called share of wallet. Now, what do you mean by commitment? Or in more in easy terms, I would say that attitudinal loyalty would be your positive word of mouth, whereas your um, behavioral loyalty would be the purchases you make from the company. So you can have any of these at this individual as well. For example, a customer may be only attitudinally loyal to your company. For example, a customer who like your company, who likes your company, but he or she does not buy from your company. So he or she has attitudinal loyalty, but not behavioral loyalty. On the other hand, there can also be customers who are buying from you, but actually they don't like you. They don't have any other option. For example, many telecommunication companies have built at behavioral loyalty, where they somehow bound the customers to be in contract with them for a year or two. But if you ask the customers, they don't like the company. Are you happy with Cellcom or Maxis or DG? They say, no, I'm not happy, but I still have that number. Why? Because I have a contract of 2 years with them. Why? Because all of my important friends and family have the same number, so I cannot switch, and so on and so forth. So those companies have successfully developed behavior loyalty, but when it comes to attitudinal, those companies fail. So the the true loyalty would be when you're not only having attitudinal loyalty, which means that the customers not only talk positive about you, the customers not only come to you again and again willingly, but they also come to you and spend money with you as well. So these are the two types of loyalties that a retail outlet or a store or a producer or a company should keep in mind. Okay, what the slide says is that more than customer loyalty is more than simply liking one retailer over another retailer. That's a very complex topic, as I mentioned in the beginning as well. That customer loyalty is comparatively a very complex topic with regard to the behavior and the attitude of customers. Um, some customers may be reluctant to patronize the competitive retailers because they are scared that if they switch to another retailer or another competitor, they may not be happy. How can retailers build loyalty? What are some of the points that retailers should keep in mind in order to build loyalty? The first one is try to have a strong private brand. We also call it a private brand, a store brand, or a retailer's brand. So if you can have your own brand, it can give you sustainable competitive advantage, because that is your brand, and others can actually not buy that. Others cannot actually shelf that product in their stores. So the first one is try to develop your own brand or brand name if possible. Okay, the next one is develop clear and precise positioning strategy. You should know, being a company, what you want the customers to think about you. So if you are targeting yourself as a example of a restaurant, for example, if you're targeting yourself as a fried chicken company, your focus should be on good fried chicken, not burgers, like KFC. But if you're targeting yourself as a burger company, like a hamburger company, like McDonald's, then you should not focus more on the chicken. That's why when you go to these two retail outlets, you will see that McDonald's would always prefer to highlight their categories of burgers, whereas KFC would always highlight their categories of chicken rather than burgers. Anyway, even though both of them have both the products, KFC also offer good burger, and McDonald's also have fried chicken. But you have to have a clear and precise positioning strategy. What is positioning? Creating an image in the minds of customers. If you can have an emotional attachment with the customer, that will really build a lot of attitudinal loyalty. I'm not sure about behavior, but attitudinal definitely. If the customers like you somehow, and I always give my own example that even though in my case it is both attitudinal and behavior loyalty of the company like Jesco, Wang Samaju, that I always give an example that I now drive 20-25 kilometers to buy grocery from Jesco still. Why? Because I have some kind of attachment with that store that now it feels like home when I'm there. So if the retailer is successful in doing something like that, you will see that the customer will come even for far away for you to buy products from your company. Now, I already mentioned to you in the last slide that what is retail branding. It is when the store or the retailer use a brand to build customer loyalty. But what brand? The store's own brand. That is your brand. That cannot be shelved in other stores. That is that is you normally don't give the right to others to sell that product. For example, the products of Giant, for example, the private labels of Jesco or the private labels of Tesco. You cannot find these brands in other stores. For example, the products that are the private labels or the brands, the store brands of Tesco, you cannot find them in Jesco, and vice versa. So why it is important to have a retail brand? Because it can successfully create an emotional tie with the customers, and that eventually can build trust and loyalty. Further, it facilitates store loyalty because it stands for predictable level of quality. Now, because that is your own store brand, so the customers are sure that there will be a certain level of quality, consistency in the brand that they are buying from your store, and which is not available in other stores. Some of the approaches through which you can have customer loyalty, some of the methods, these are not all, some of the methods through which you can build loyalty is try to portray, try to develop, try to earn a good brand image. If your company has a good brand image, what is brand image? Brand image is when the customers hear your name, certain things comes in their mind, so a picture comes in their mind. That is a brand image. For example, the moment you hear KFC, chicken comes in your mind. The moment you hear McDonald's, burger comes in your mind. The moment you hear Boost, juice come in your mind. The moment you hear IIM, education comes in your mind. What is that? That is called brand image. So if you are successful in developing a particular brand image, and you stay consistent with that brand image, or when you have a brand image and you focus more on that, so that you can make it even stronger in the minds of the customers, that can lead to customer loyalty. The next one is positioning. Try to have there are a lot of positioning strategies. You may have studied that in the basic marketing principle of marketing course, that organizations organizations work hard in order to position their product. What is positioning? Positioning is the image of the products in the minds of the customer. So you have to find out what you want the customers to think about your product, and you have to develop your marketing strategies in exactly the same way, so that the customers think about your product the way you want them to think about it. And you if possible, in your retail outlets, if you can have unique merchandises that others don't have, other competitors don't have. For example, Jesco and Tesco are two competitors. If Jesco or Tesco are successful in getting some merchandises that others cannot get, that will make that will try to attract more customers, and that will ensure either behavioral or attitudinal loyalty. For example, if for instance, if Jesco get a contract from or sign a contract with suppose Dell, that Dell would only provide laptops in Malaysia to Jesco. You cannot buy Dell anywhere else. Now, don't you think that a lot of customers who are the customers of Dell will only come Jesco and not other competitors like Giant and Jesco and Big and so on. So that is called unique merchandises. You need to have certain level of merchandises which are unique to your store only and others don't have them. The last two are customer services and customer relationship management. They are more or less the same. The target of customer services is also to develop or to build relationship with the customers. Strong customer services normally would earn you attitudinal loyalty. It will build emotional attachment with the customers. And I normally give the example of Carrefour, and I think I give that example to you many times as well. That I bought a carpet and I returned it back, and the customer services department entertained me so pleasantly, so nicely that I normally give this example in all my classes. So see, they have earned good words from one of the customers. So when I think of them, Carrefour was actually not compared to Jesco. Carrefour was their products were not as good quality products as Jesco, but still I praise them because of their good customer services, because of their strong customer services. And the same is the story with other industries as well. Go to banks. You prefer one bank or another bank just because of the customer services, because they entertain you nicely, because they give you smiles, because they offer you coffee, because they fill the form for you. So all these kind of things. Or when you go to one airline and prefer one airline over another airline, the reason is because of good and strong customer services. You need to have softwares. Now there are a lot of softwares designed in order to tell you which customers are important to your company and which customers should have long relationship with you. And these programs, either the software programs or the real promotional programs, that can ensure a strong relationship with your customers. Followed by building customer loyalty, the next most important thing that scholars recommend is having good employees, competitive employees, competent employees, and that comes under the topic of human resource management. What is human resource management? It is the management of human in an organization, the management of human in an organization. What do you mean by that? The management of human in an organization. Quick To just give you a quick glimpse of what does it mean is hiring people who are competent and who can do the job that you have designed, and firing those people who are incompetent and who can not do the job that you have assigned to them. It also includes many other things, for example, motivating the employees, for example, promoting the employees, for example, demoting the employees, for example, transferring the employees from one department to another department, and so many of this. It's a whole subject actually. So, but quickly speaking, in this particular topic, it is that you have to find out those employees that they are loyal to your company, that they are sincere to your company, because employees are the key to build sustainable competitive advantage. So you need to have good strategies of recruiting and selecting. You need to have employees that want those employees who wants to stay in your company and who don't want to switch to another company. So you being an employee, I will give you an interesting tip, that you, if you're working in an organization, you look at yourself. The moment you start concentrate, the moment you start thinking of applying to another organization, you are no more sincere to the company, or you will be working but you would not be working with full heart. There is a problem in the organization, it means. So you have to find those employees that they join your company and they want to stay in your company. And you can go and see the case of Starbucks. The employees of Starbucks, in human resource management case, the employees of Starbucks says that they actually like to work in Starbucks, even those people who are making coffee for you. So their job is like not a very high level job, like they but they are in the they are just making coffee for you, but still they like their job or they love their job. So you can Google, and you can even YouTube, there is a video, there is a documentary on that as well. So what is that? Building sustainable competitive advantage through good employees. The other thing which will really help attract a lot of customers is try to work on your distribution channel. This is the normal distribution channel, that how the product flows. It from the vendor, it goes to the distribution center, and the distribution center give it to the store. So if, and there are many other people, the normal distribution channel, if you remember, I told you many times that what is the normal method in the distribution channel. You can't remember that? What is it? That you have a producer, and the producer give the product to the consumer. I'm sure that you remember this particular thing, even though the line was a little bigger in the whiteboard that normally I draw in the class. So in this arrow, there are so many people. For example, a producer give product to the wholesaler. That is a very common one. The wholesaler give the product to the agent. The agent give product to, for example, the broker. The broker give product to agents. The agents give product to retailers. The retailers give product to customers. So this, as you can see, it can be even longer than this. So a lot of people are here: the wholesaler, the brokers, the agents, the retailer. Even in the middle, there may be someone else. So if you reduce this particular link, if you decrease, it will decrease the cost, and you will have more money. Money for what? Money for better services, money for more assortment, money for more depth and width in your products. And you can also eventually decrease the prices of the products that are in your store. So when you have better services, sustainable competitive advantage, not sustainable competitive advantage, but it can attract customers. You can have customers, and the link goes like that. Customer services cannot give you sustainable competitive advantage, but what customer services can do is, what better services can do is, it can earn loyal customers. So when you have loyal customers, then it is a sustainable competitive advantage. Breadth and depth in the product may not earn you competitive or sustainable competitive advantage. It can only give you competitive advantage, but what it can do is that, because you will have products that are unique, and unique products can definitely earn you some more loyal customers, as we discussed here. If you remember, see, unique products, unique merchandises can give you customer loyalty, and customer loyalty is a sustainable competitive advantage. Decreasing the price, this is not a sustainable competitive advantage, it is a only competitive advantage. But of course, when your prices are lower in the whole market, you will see that the customers will come and buy from you. So you may not have attitudinal loyalty, you may not have attitudinal loyalty, but you definitely will have the, which loyalty? We call it behavioral loyalty. So because people will come and spend with you because your prices are low in the market. So these are the things that you can eventually invest in when you save some money from the distribution channel. Okay, the most important thing, and that most important thing is location. I told you many times that the most important thing in retail outlet, if you want to start a business, if you want to start a store, one thing that you should definitely focus on a lot, that you should work harder on selecting, that is your location. Because what it says, what are the three most important things in retailing? What are the three things? Location, location, and location. So it is that important. As you can see, location is something that nobody can copy, because location is only one region in the whole world. So the region that you have already occupied, the region that you have already taken, others cannot take it from you. And that is, if it is a good location, that definitely will give you a very sustainable competitive advantage. Take an example of KLCC. It is in such an amazing location that from everywhere in Kuala Lumpur you can see that people are building these skyscrapers, these big buildings, and the apartments, or the offices, or the places which are facing towards the KLCC, their rent is almost double. Why? Because they cannot get that location which is already taken over by the KLCC, or for example Pavilion, or so many other places that you know are in the prime locations. Why do we call it prime locations? Because those locations are the locations which are valued by customers. In the next chapter we will discuss about location alone. We have a chapter on location, just like we have a chapter on employees as well. So we will discuss it in more detail. But for now, you should keep it in mind that location is something which can give you competitive advantage and sustainable competitive advantage. In the book, they have given an example of Starbucks. If you look at Starbucks, all the Starbucks, they try to select their location very carefully. They try to select top of they try to select create top of the mind awareness first. If the location is not good, and the location that they select, normally it is difficult for the competitors to enter in that market. Take an example, as I mentioned to you, go and read the case of Starbucks in your book. You will see that the company Starbucks normally select a location that is a prime location. You will see that that will be a lot of traffic, the traffic of the pedestrians, walking traffic, or the traffic of the car if they have a drive-through as well. In Kuala Lumpur, in some of the places where Starbucks have drive-through, you will see that there will be a long queue of cars. And the places where Starbucks do not offer a drive-through, you will see that normally their location is a location where they have a high pedestrian traffic, where people walk in, or people sit there, and then their own internal layout is another a whole lot of story, but we will discuss that in the layout chapter. So location should be selected carefully because it can give you reward and sustainable competitive advantage. Growth strategy, growth strategy is something that I would discuss with you inshallah in the next lecture, because it is important. We'll talk in detail. I think we already slightly discussed it, but I will discuss it in more detail inshallah in the coming lecture. There are 4 growth strategies: the penetration, expansion, development, and diversification, that inshallah we will discuss it in the coming class.